Today we look at what you need to know about life in Oregon. Oregon is one of the most interesting states in the US. It is arguably one of the most naturally beautiful states with a rich history, interesting people, and it's home to one of the greatest cities the US had to offer, but now serves as a cautionary tale. And yes, I'm talking about Portland, just in case you were confused and thought I was talking about Scappoose. Oregon was always one of the top 10 most moved to states most years since a week after Lewis and Clark made their way back to St. Louis. Somewhere around 2018, they fell out of the top 10 and now sit in the mid-20s. Despite all their problems, people still find their way to the Beaver State. Living in Oregon offers a unique experience due to the diverse landscapes, climate, culture, and lifestyle. Right now, we're going to look at the 10 things you need to know before you make that jump. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, the natural beauty. Like I was saying, Oregon is one of the most beautiful states you could find if you like being outdoors. Breathtaking landscapes that include rugged coastline, forests, cascading waterfalls, and scenic mountains like Mount Hood, the Sisters, and Crater Lake, which is really a lake in a mountain. It's actually a lake that's in a volcano. What's really cool about Oregon, wherever you are, outdoor recreational activities like hiking, camping, skiing, fishing, biking, they're not too far away. I live in the suburbs and I could be in some really good hiking spots in about 20 minutes. When I first moved up here, I loved Portland. And that was one of the main reasons I moved here. It was just such a unique city. Now the reason I still love Oregon is the natural beauty. Now in the eastern part of Oregon, you're not going to find as much hiking and stuff like that. You will find a lot of lakes, streams, and rivers. You just won't find the forests and the mountains like you will on the west side of the state. Number 9, the weather. Oregon's climate varies significantly depending on the region. Western Oregon has a mild, wet climate, while Eastern Oregon experiences drier and more extreme weather conditions, including hot summers and cold winters. If you live in places like Eugene, Salem, and Portland, or even the coastal areas, you're going to get some snow. It's never 5 feet of snow, anything like that. It's not like Minnesota or Wisconsin. You're guaranteed to get a couple dustings every winter, with the occasional serious snow blowing through every other year or so. I've lived in the Portland metro area now 12, 13 years, and we've probably had 5 different snowstorms that basically shut down the city for the better part of a week. The snow we get on our really bad winters are nothing compared to what Minnesota and Wisconsin do, and they won't shut down for that type of weather. We're just not used to it. We're not built for it. When it gets really bad snow-wise and people get stuck, they just push their cars to the side of the road or drive them if they can and walk home. Then the news point out that, and then the news like 2 or 3 days later kind of explain, hey, the police are saying you need to go pick up your car if it's on the side of the road. They're towing them day after tomorrow. I still enjoy the snow. I grew up in Southern California, never really had snow, so it's still kind of a treat to me. I know people from Buffalo and Minnesota and Michigan just went, oh, it sucks. What's the matter with you? It's never a treat. Number 8, Portland ain't Oregon. Okay, so this can be said for a lot of different cities in the United States. New York City is nothing like the rest of New York. Philadelphia is not like the rest of Pennsylvania. Seattle, Tacoma metro area is nothing like the rest of Washington. This list can go on. But the poster child for this situation is Portland, Oregon. Portland is absolutely not like the rest of Oregon. It's actually so bad, the people on Eastern Oregon now want to break off from the state and move to Idaho, or they want to cut the state in half, basically. It's never going to happen, but it's something they keep talking about and they act like it's going to happen, as long as it keeps them happy, you know? The problem is Portland has the most people, so they have the most voting power, and the people on the eastern side in their small town feel they're underrepresented, which they have a point, but you know what? You chose to move out to a small town. It's not like this is something new, right? Portland is the largest city in Oregon, and it's known for its progressive, environmentally conscious culture. It's a hub for food, craft beer, coffee shops, and a vibrant art scene, which you can't deny that. Got a lot of podcasts. I actually reached out to a podcast that they have that's about Portland for this video, and they never got back to me. This is an interesting story. So the podcast is called CityCast Portland, or CityCast PDX. PDX, in case you don't know, is the letters for the Portland International Airport. A lot of people just refer to Portland sometimes as PDX. So I reached out to one of the people that's involved with it. They never got back to me. So I went to check and see why they didn't get back to me on Twitter. And about 2 days after I sent that message, Twitter they're switched over to something where you have to pay to message back and forth, unless you're already friends with them. They still had 3 days to return the message to me, but still, I'm not going to blame them completely. I know I'm irritating and obnoxious, but people usually don't pass up free exposure for their podcast. But yeah, like I said, Portland is not like the rest of Oregon. Number 7, there is no sales tax. Yes, one significant advantage of living in Oregon is that the state has no sales tax. This can lead to considerable savings on purchases compared to other states. Of course, this has to be said. Even though we don't have a sales tax and like Washington doesn't have a state income tax, they get you other places. Oregon's state income tax is pretty high. Matter of fact, most of their taxes are pretty high. Portland now has a homeless tax. Yeah, they're not taxing the homeless, they're taxing you to help pay for the homeless. Overall, Oregon is ranked 31st when it comes to total tax burden. That's in the middle of the pack along with Utah, Louisiana, Texas, Pennsylvania, then Oregon at 31. And of course, a little bit cheaper is Nevada, Idaho, Arizona, North Carolina. I know people will ask, but the most taxed states are New York and Hawaii and Maine, and the least taxed states are Alaska, Delaware, New Hampshire. But Oregon isn't the worst, and the no sales tax helps out with that. Number 6, sustainable practices. Oregon emphasizes sustainable living and green initiatives. Recycling is widely practiced, and renewable energy sources like wind and hydroelectric power are a big thing here. You also just can't cut down a tree in your front yard. There's a lot of paperwork involved in this. We don't get as much sun as other states, so hydroelectric power, because we got a lot of rivers, and windmills are really big on the eastern side of Oregon. Major cities like Portland have well-developed public transit systems, including buses, light rails, and streetcars, making it convenient to get around without a car. Less pollutants in the air, less fuel used, da-da-da-da-da. Sustainability, though, is a big part of Oregon's master plan, and if you do move here in the coming years, I'm sure you're going to see even more extreme measures taken for sustainability. Number 5, thriving wine and beer industries. This is a big part of life in all of Oregon, not just Portland or Eugene or Bend. Oregon is home to a growing wine industry. The Willamette Valley region, in particular, is a popular destination for wine enthusiasts. Remember when we used to call them winos? Wine enthusiast sounds so much nicer. I'm not a drug user. I'm a chemical enthusiast. Anyway, Oregon is home to more than 200 breweries and brew pubs that produce a large variety of beer. There are also 900 wineries in Oregon. You're talking about a state that has just over 4 million residents. Number 4, employment opportunities. Despite all its problems, Oregon has some jobs. A lot of different industries with a lot of different opportunities. Technology, healthcare, education, tourism. Portland's tech scene has been on the rise, attracting professionals from across the country. Intel is expanding here. You got Nike in the Portland metro area. OSU Hospital, they're here. Providence, Kaiser employs a lot of people here. There are a lot of different industries with a lot of jobs in Oregon. A majority of the jobs obviously are going to be on the west side of the state because the east side of the state is, sparsely populated. If you move to the Bend, Portland, Eugene, Salem, even down in Ashland area, you're going to be able to find a job. Chances are it's going to be okay pay too. Now, its heyday was about 7 years ago, but it's still doing better than a lot of different states. Number 3, real estate. Now, there's a little bit of confusion on real estate here in Oregon. It used to be one of those states where you go when you wanted to buy some property and you couldn't afford California. That's not as much a thing as it used to be, especially and obviously around the major cities. It's going to be more expensive, but Portland is really crazy expensive right now. You go the eastern side, which, might end up being part of Idaho, but I doubt it. It's going to be a lot cheaper. According to Zillow, the average home value in Oregon is $498,558. That's down almost 4% over the past year and goes to pending in around 9 days. California, you're getting a break in Oregon, but not as much of one as you used to. California right now, the average California home value is $743,000, down about 4.4% over the past year and goes pending in around 12 days. So Oregon's definitely closed the gap just by eyeballing it. When I first moved up here, homes that I was looking looking at were about $250,000. This is back in 2010. A home in similar condition in the area where I grew up in Southern California, those homes were going for about $625,000. So Oregon is definitely not a cheap alternative anymore. If you want that, and let's say you're coming from California or New York or even Washington, you want to look at places like New Mexico, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama. Tennessee's a lot cheaper. Oregon isn't really an option anymore. It's just too damn expensive. Number 2, education. Oregon is home to several renowned universities, including the University of Oregon, Oregon State University, Lewis and Clark, Pacific University, Reed College, Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon, George Fox University, and Portland State University. We also have the University of Portland here also, but for some reason, people always seem to think that all Oregon has is the University of Oregon, the Ducks, and the Beavers at Oregon State. This is a state that puts an emphasis on higher learning. All states do to a degree, but Oregon really, it's a focus, a little bit more than I see in other states. Maybe not Massachusetts. That's how Oregon is when it comes to the colleges and universities. When it comes to the K through 12, it's a different story. Oregon's education has a long history dating back to the early 1800s. The first public school in Oregon was established in 1840, and the state's first compulsory attendance law was passed in 1872. In recent years, Oregon's education system has faced a number of challenges, including declining enrollment, flat test scores, and low funding, just like a lot of other school districts and states and their education system. As a result, the state's K through 12 has ranked near the bottom on national education rankings. So Oregon's a great state to come to for college and universities, but probably not the best to educate K to 12. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link for that down below, along with our new channel, The Sweet Life for Briggs. Both links are down below. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, the Cascadia Subduction Zone. I know that sounds like the beginning of an immature joke about a girl named Cass, but no, it's not. This is serious. But I'm sure if your name's Cass and you heard that joke, you'd think it was pretty serious. Oregon lies along the Cascadia Subduction Zone. This is a tectonic plate boundary that could potentially lead to a significant earthquake and tsunami event, a serious tsunami that goes inland for like miles. It's important to be prepared and informed about emergency procedures and evacuation routes. Now, this is something in previous years was kind of laughed off, but more recently, they've been getting a little serious about it. This plate boundary is located off the western coast of North America and stretches from Northern California to British Columbia in Canada. If this thing breaks or collides or fractures, whatever you want to call it, it's going to cause some serious damage. If you go to the Oregon coast, you'll see signs all around the coastal towns that say tsunami zone. The last major earthquake along the Cascadia Subduction Zone occurred on January 26, 1700. This event was estimated to have had a magnitude of 9.0 on the Richter scale and created a massive tsunami that affected coastal areas as far away as Japan. Now, they know it's happened before. This isn't just like a one-off. That's why they predict the new ones coming soon. This one has a serious potential to do a lot of damage along the Oregon coast and inland a good distance. Luckily, a lot of different areas have a coastal range, so if there was a giant tsunami, chances are it would come up the Columbia River, but wouldn't go over the hills and, hit a lot of different areas. At least we hope. A lot of people, those end of the world type people, they think this thing's just gonna wash out Oregon all the way to Nevada and Idaho type thing. Who knows? All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.